الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. The subject of the means, since we've been talking about rizq, and to understand the subject, physical means versus religious means, it clarifies many things in our life, even to the core of the religion, to matters of al-iman versus shirk, associating partners with Allah, and many things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made means for people to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this means is by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, by being obedient to Allah. And this is basically the deen of Islam. Any action that we do, it's a mean that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in such a way that we get closer to Allah by being obedient to Allah. And some people, they either deny the means completely when it comes to the religious ones, the wahi from Allah, which is basically the ways of the disbelievers. And therefore, even in matters of rizq, as we said, and as we heard, that the religious means is the foundation. And nobody would ever deny or turn away from the physical means, as long as it's done within the boundaries of the religious means, without disobeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same thing with regards to al-shirk wal-iman. The disbelievers, when they worshipped other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they turned to these images of the righteous ones, seeking closeness to Allah, they took them as means to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala stated in the Quran clearly in more than one place. One of which the disbelievers, they said about their idols, مَا نَعْبُدُهُمْ إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَا إِلَى اللَّهِ زُلْفَى. We do not worship them except that they would get us closer, إِلَّا لِيُقَرِّبُونَا, to get us closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Zulfa. Zulfa is al-qurba, is to be close to Allah. And it has this meaning of even the love. They want to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They want to be as close as they can to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The kuffar. And the way they would do that is through these images. They say we are filthy, we are not that good, so we need someone to be between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they made these images of righteous ones. It was not just stones and that's it. Stones that reminds them images of righteous ones to them. So they would seek the closeness to Allah through these idols and these images. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called them kuffar. Why? They invented this mean from their own selves. No prophet of Allah ever called them to do this. It's something that they invented. And the history of that, it's really even stated by the Prophet ﷺ. Among the Arabs, Amr ibn Luhay was the one that invented worshipping idols to them. He went to Asham in one of his trips, and he saw people doing this, so he liked it. They were upon the deen of Ibrahim ﷺ, the people of Quraysh, the Arabs. Till he came back and he liked what he saw, so he started inventing this thing for them. And it can sound to people, those who want to be close to Allah, right? He's not calling them to commit sins. He was calling them to be close to Allah, but through these righteous people. And this is the ghulu, the extremism in this matter, made them fall into the shirk wal-'iyadhu billah. And this is one of the ways of the shaitan to deceive the people. How to protect oneself from this? Never trust your own liking and your own taste of things. Whether that makes sense, or that doesn't make sense. Al-aql to the human being, one's reason and intellect, can be an enemy to the person if it doesn't have the proper foundation of it. And that's why al-aql, or reason, to the people, if they claim this is the physical means, versus ash-shar', versus the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The deen of Allah does not command us to not to think whatsoever, but the foundation of thinking is the wahi from Allah, the revelation from Allah. This is how we are taught how to think even. So without going through the al-adilla al-aqliya, which is important, the intellectual evidences to refute such an evil act, which is worshipping idols, is very obvious and it's important and it's part of the deen. But the basics and the foundation to refute this is what? This is إن هي إلا أسماء سميتموها أنتم وآباؤكم ما نزل الله بها من سلطان. These are nothing but names you named them You called them, you and your forefathers before. ما أنزل الله بها من سلطان. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not bring down any authority of it. And as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, to say to the people of the book and to the disbelievers, قُلْ إِن كَانَ لِلرَّحْمَنِ وَلَدٌ فَأَنَا أَوَّلُ الْعَابِدِينَ. Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a son, I'll be the first one to worship. But He doesn't. And this is with one of the meanings of the verse. But the meaning is, where did you come up with these things? It's not from wahy. And no one can ever prove that this is from wahy. So the wahy is the thing to be respected. And that's why to get to know the religious means, again, physical means, human beings, they know it. Go work, you make money, you eat food, you drink. This is something that we don't have to convince others to be upon. But the religious ones, talisman, person hangs something around his neck, on his arm. Why are you doing this? To protect me from the evil eye. Or because of this, or because of that. Is that a physical mean? Did the doctor prescribe that to you? You go to the doctor, says, oh, you have to wear this thread around your arm because you're sick and this is means of cure. No doctor would do this. They don't study that in medical school. So where'd you get it from? From the Quran? From the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ? Or from a fortune teller, a sorcerer, someone making ta'aweed, someone that needs some mental help? If it's not a physical mean, then either if it's not a religious means, that means it's shirk. And this is the rule of it. This is the principle of it. If it's not a physical mean, well known, you don't have to convince people. This is something that is well known. Versus, and if it's not a religious means, that means it becomes shirk when people invent mean that has no reality to it. And that's why when the Sahabi, he saw a man wearing something, a thread. He asked him, why are you wearing this? He said, min al-wahina. Wahina, disease that they get, so he's wearing that for this. So he said, انزعها, take it off. فإنها لا تزيدك إلا وهنا. Doesn't increase you anything but more weakness. Because it's nothing. It's not a medicine, physical one, and it's not a religious one. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said, من تعلق تميمة فقد أشرك. Whoever hangs a talisman, tamima, he committed shirk. And you would see this, some of the Muslims, they do these types of things. It's all rooted to the subject of the means. Do you like that mean? Someone told you that this is a mean of the wahy. The wahy is already preserved, completed. The Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And there's so many hadith about the subject, and whoever perfect the understanding of it, he will protect himself by the mercy of Allah, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from shirk, which is the worst thing ever on the face of earth. How did shirk invented to the human beings? Adam alayhi salam was upon the tawheed. And what happened? As it's mentioned in Surah Nuh, they used their own reasoning from Iblis, from Shaitan, to take a mean to get them closer to Allah. وَقَالُوا لَا تَذَرُنَّ آلِهَتَكُمْ وَلَا تَذَرُنَّ وَدًّا وَلَا سُوَاعًا وَلَا يَغُوثَ وَيَعُوقَ وَنَسْرًا. Names of righteous men from the people of Nuh alayhi salam. When they died, they built something to remind the people, to remind them that if someone is about to commit a sin, he will see this. He remember the righteous man. He would stay away from the sin. You know, sometimes when a person is alone, if there is a righteous man from Salihi Qawmi, as it's even mentioned in some of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, to have shyness from Allah, the same way you have shyness from a righteous man among your people. If that righteous man is right next to you, would you commit that sin or not? The answer for those who have decency, even, they would say no. So they took this mean as a way with a good cause, good intentions. And this even brings to, not just into the level of shirk, into the levels of deviation among the ummah. People are left to not scholars of the deen, but rather to whether it's motivating speakers, activism, whatever there is, right? And things according to opinions. Or if we do this, this is going to end up with this. This is a great means of da'wah. This is just a beautiful thing to bring the deen of Allah to the hearts of the people. Where did you get that from? Physical means or religious means? Or physical means only without the religious means? Without the religious means, without the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, which is the way of the people of knowledge, then people are opening gates of deviation upon themselves when they trust their opinion so much without the wahy. And the wahy is not for myself and yourself and the numbers of people to do this, but rather through the people of knowledge. The knowledge that needs to be respected, the ilm, the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, that makes the matter clear to us what are means and what are not means. And this is how we get to be the matters of rizq, matters of tawheed even, matters of al-iman, every matter of the deen, to understand this religious means, which is basically the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa Muhammad wa sahbihi wa sallam. Inshallah, we'll continue the tafsir in a few minutes. Inshallah.